What happens after nuclear war?
Nuclear war would forever split human history into anything that happened before and the post-war apocalypse. In the worst case, mass fires consume everything within tens of thousands of square kilometers.
I don't know why, but when I think of a nuclear blast going off, maybe I have like single digit IQ, but I feel like I don't think about fire, right? Like when I think of a nuclear bomb going off, I think of radiation, and I think of maybe like an initial explosion, but my stupid brain doesn't think about fire. And he said for thousands of square kilometers. What's that in freedom units? 10,000 square kilometers is about 4,000 square miles. How big is 4,000 square miles? It's about as big as Hawaii. Okay, so basically this guy's saying if they dropped a bomb in the middle of Hawaii, the whole thing would be on fire, the entire thing. That's actually insane.
Killing hundreds of millions within hours. But the
Hundreds of millions. Yeah, depending on where it's dropped. Sure, yeah, that's fair.
worst part comes after that. Nuclear war could trigger a nuclear winter that might kill billions.
Billions. There's only 8.1 billion people on the planet, so if he's saying billions, that's plural, that's at least 2. So he's saying at least 2 billion people could die from a nuclear winter, and 2 out of 8 is 1 out of 4, which is 25%. So he's saying a well-placed nuke could kill a quarter of the people. Okay, I've officially pooped my pants here. Let's see what he has to say.
Maybe even completely collapsing our civilization. How does it work, and what would it look like? Fire causes winter.
See, that's the part, like, I don't like, how do you, because usually like when I see a fire, right, and then you bring like an ice like a snowball next to it, it melts. So how do you get like winter after fire?
When a nuclear weapon is detonated, a bubble of gas hotter than the sun is forced into existence.
Hotter than the sun? Is it though? I'm genuinely asking. That sounds fake, but okay.
So hot that everything within kilometers immediately begins to burn. The terror bubble expands rapidly, filling the sky over its target, creating a devastating shockwave that causes most of the immediate destruction.
I'm still thinking about that sun thing. Again, maybe I'm just really stupid and I'm being fully transparent. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but like, hotter than the sun? Wouldn't that just melt the earth? Like, I don't know.
Basically, you break a lot of stuff and set it on fire. And in the worst case, this turns into a firestorm that consumes everything and everyone on the ground.
I think that's being pretty generous here. I feel like if it's that hot, things wouldn't be on fire. They would just disappear instantly, right? Like, wouldn't it just blow them into like microscopic pieces? Like once the nuke drops, it's not like there's going to be a building left to be on fire. Like, no, the building is just going to, like Vegeta final explosion in the middle of a city, it's just gone, right?
Right after the explosion, a gigantic mushroom cloud rises over the destruction like a demon throning over its perverse work. But in the following hours, a far more deadly cloud forms. The fire burning cities, forests, or fields heats up so much air that it creates its own microclimate and wind system.
Creates its own microclimate? I clearly don't know anything about a nuke. I thought a nuke would drop, everything in the immediate radius would be blown to zero, reduced to nothing, and then there would just be residual radiation for 30 years. That's what I thought. I didn't know. We're talking about microclimates here. We're like one step away from starting a black hole and just forming a new universe in the center. I don't.
Air and hot smoke rise, pulling in fresh air from the surroundings and fresh oxygen, stoking the flames even more. This creates an updraft and forms a colossal pyrocumulonimbus cloud that carries the soot and aerosols from the flames high into the stratosphere.
See, that's probably not great for the stratosphere. Like that, I'm just gonna go out on a whim, like a nuclear explosion gas probably I mean, like, we've been talking about like not using plastic straws in terms of like saving the environment or whatever. I think this is probably slightly worse than using plastic straws. I feel like this is probably a little bit, and this is above the clouds, by the way. The tropopause, that's high.
Under normal conditions, the soot rising from a big fire is quickly washed out by rain. But a pyrocumulonimbus cloud can reach altitudes well above the height where rain clouds form. Once above the tropopause, there's simply no weather to remove soot from the atmosphere, so it can stay aloft for years.
Smoke so high we should call it Wiz Khalifa. That's actually kind of terrifying. This would be a permanent change to the stratosphere or whatever.
If this happens to a single city, it's a tragedy, but a fairly local one. But in a full-scale nuclear war, warring nations following the cold logic of mutually assured destruction could use hundreds or even thousands of nuclear weapons all at once, creating hundreds of firestorms, sending up to 150 million tons of soot, a cube the size of a skyscraper, directly into the stratosphere.
See, I'm pretty sure that mutually assured destruction, MAD or MAD for short, okay, I think that's the only thing that prevented the Cold War from turning into a hot war, I think, right? I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure like once scientists realized like what a nuke was capable of, they were like, okay, literally if we launch this, they'll launch that, and that's it, we're done. And I would like to think that in 2024, like we know even more about this sort of technology. Wouldn't it be even more likely that we wouldn't launch a nuke because of that, right? I would hope that would be the case. Maybe I'm ignorant, I don't know.
In the next few days and weeks, the soot begins to blanket the...
I like how he when he made this video, he put the soot over the United States and also over China and Russia, because he's just like, you two are the fuckers we're talking about in this video. We're not looking at South America or Africa. They're not launching nukes at each other. We're looking at these two motherfuckers right here. That's the culprits. That's the reason he made this video. Let's just be abundantly clear, okay?
The Earth at high altitudes, absorbing light high above the ground and preventing sunlight from reaching the surface. This is not like science fiction where the sky turns dark and the sun disappears. Winter is what happens when just a little less sunlight hits the ground, and now suddenly a lot less sunlight gets through.
I see. I'm starting to understand how a nuclear winter is possible. This is a good video. This is making sense. I'm learning here.
Yesterday, the world was normal. Today, nuclear winter begins.
I don't even like regular winter, brother. I get that seasonal affective disorder or whatever it's called, where you just get depressed for all winter, and I live in New York City, like, so that's bad enough. The fact that a nuclear winter sounds even worse. No thank you.
Winter causes hunger. How bad nuclear winter would be is still an active area of research.
Yeah, because we've never had a nuclear winter, right? Like, we know the effects of a nuke because unfortunately they've been used in the past, but I don't know if we like fully understand what a nuclear winter would look like, because I think what he's saying in this video is that there would have to be multiple nukes dropped in like certain areas for there to be enough of the smoke for it to like cover a certain amount of area to make the nuclear winter, if I'm understanding correctly. So yeah, we're kind of entering into unknown territory here that hopefully remains unknown forever.
It all hinges on one thing: how much stuff will burn really hot. How many firestorms will be caused by the heat of the explosions? This depends on many factors, from the materials a city is made of to the time of the year, if a forest is nearby, and so on. So just keep in mind we're working with some assumptions. Here's the good news. Nuclear winter is not permanent, and definitely no new ice age.
Okay, so I assume it's worse than regular winter, but it's not as bad as an ice age. So it's a pretty big gap, I'm gonna be honest with you. That's a pretty big window that we're looking at here. But like, okay, it's good to know that it's not permanent. That's good.
The effects on the climate only last as long as the soot remains in the atmosphere, which is at most a decade or so until it clears out and temperatures normalize.
A decade of winter, bro? No shot. I wouldn't survive. I'm telling you right now, if I did survive somehow, I wouldn't survive 10 years of winter.
The bad news is that this causes almost immediate climate change within a few weeks.
Yeah,
it disrupts our climate system faster than any living being can adapt to.
That's what I said about the straws not being that big of a deal anymore, you know what I mean? Because like, you know,
this new climate, our seasons are suddenly all wrong. Winters are much longer, summers shorter and colder, or gone altogether. This also means less evaporation over the oceans, which means less rain and maybe large-scale droughts.
They already have that in like California, right? I'm pretty sure like California only gets like 3 rainy days a year at this point, right? Like, I don't know, they already have all these wildfires. Matter of fact, are we sure there wasn't a nuke dropped on California? Because I feel like they're kind of getting all this except for the long winter. I don't know.
This is bad because our food eats the sun. Without good summers and enough rain, growing seasons shrink or even collapse.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? Like my diet consists a lot of things that you can find on DoorDash or Uber Eats, for example. So like Wendy's spicy chicken nuggets is one thing that comes to mind, of course. Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supremes, chalupas, a McDouble, a McChicken, those types of things, right? And so the unfortunate thing is that even though those are the worst possible things for you to consume because they're micro processed, at the end of the day, they're still food, right? Like this, they still had to grow something somewhere on the planet, even though it's gone through 46 levels of removal from what real food would be considered. So even people like me who doesn't eat any of the crops, I don't eat the stuff that comes out of the ground, I eat all the garbage that shows up on the delivery apps, I'd still be starving, and that's unfortunate.
The majority of humanity lives in an area called the mid-latitudes, a strip of land that has the ideal temperature for our species, not just because it's not too hot or cold, it's also where the plants we eat grow best. The vast majority of the food we eat stems from a few highly efficient crops that are mostly produced in a few very agriculturally productive regions like the US Great Plains or Ukraine.
So I think the big foods that he's talking about here are like corn, rice, wheat, I think maybe potatoes as well. I think those are a big one, or at least they were in Europe at some point, like, you know, Ireland and stuff like that. Also I don't know if this is true about Ukraine anymore, because I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but there's been a little bit of stuff going on in Ukraine the past couple of years, and I'm pretty sure that their ability to produce as much food as they used to, which used to be a lot, unfortunately I think that has been significantly reduced, if I remember correctly, because of a little you know, military invasion by a piece of shit nearby. That's just, I mean, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. So shout out to Russia for ruining the food production for the whole well, for any country that relies on what Ukraine makes, which I think is quite a bit. I'm not sure, I'm not an expert on this. You can hate me in the comment section below.
From these bread and rice baskets of the world, they get traded and shipped around the world. In the worst case of a full-scale nuclear war, the temperatures in the mid-latitudes will probably stay below freezing for several years.
Does that mean that all of a sudden Africa and South America become like the first world countries? Like they suddenly have the ability to grow all the food, and therefore they're the ones that won't be hungry? A little bit of a plot twist there, don't you think? That's pretty interesting.
Nothing at all can grow under these conditions, and the world's bread baskets would suddenly turn empty. If food production crashes,
they also turn empty when they're invaded by their
the world's food producers would very likely ramp up prices or even stop selling food to other countries.
Which is horrifying, because food prices are already quite high. I think compared now to like 5 years ago, I feel like they've gone up maybe 30 to 50%. I mean that maybe that's just in New York, I don't know, but like I'm paying $4 for a dozen eggs right now. I don't know what you guys are paying. Sometimes they're on sale for like $3.30, but it's about $4, maybe a little bit you know, give or take,
if they're still able to farm their fields at all. It's easy to calculate how many people can be alive on Earth. You take all the calories we can produce and divide them by what the average person needs to survive. If you have more people than calories, then within a few weeks you don't anymore.
That's actually fucking terrifying. Like nobody thinks about that anymore, because we, like, I mean, okay, at least in first world countries, I can only speak for myself, but like in the United States, we waste so much food, right? Like people throw out food all the time, and we don't even think about the fact that like there is a minimum amount of calories that need to be within, you know, a population to keep the population existing, right? And so that is scary to think about, but like also that used to be the reality. Like before we had all these advancements in agriculture, everyone was a farmer, because if you didn't make your own calories, then GG, that's it. Like you can't really rely on other people. So luckily in the past, you know, couple hundred years, we've had all these extra calories floating around, but whoo, man,
humanity has only a few weeks supply of crops and food, not enough to survive this drastic drop in production. But the climate is not the only issue. Modern industrialized agriculture is a complex affair that relies on functioning supply chains to provide unthinkable amounts of industrially produced fertilizer and chemicals to kill weeds and vermin.
I think that's another point that a lot of people don't realize. There's plenty of places in the world that make a lot of food that actually can't do it without fertilizer. Like the amount of food that they make is literally made possible by the amount of food, fertilizer and other chemicals that they can acquire from countries that produce that fertilizer. So it's like infinitely more complex than just plant seeds and grow them, like at least at the current scale that we have right now in the world, right? Like our advancements in agricultural technology are the only reason that we even have as many people on the planet as there are, because it's just a math problem. Can you make enough food? Yes or no? There you go.
Massive numbers of specialized modern machinery is plowing, sowing, harvesting and distributing. After a nuclear war, especially if the countries that produce the food were part of the nuclear exchange, there may simply be no more fuel, fertilizer or machine parts because there are no more oil refineries, ports, and other essential infrastructure left, damaging global food production even more.
Yeah, everything is connected, right? I think that's what a lot of people, I'm not excluded from that. I'm not special or smart or anything like that. But yeah, I think all industries are interconnected. And I think we saw that when the world shut down in 2020, right? I think a lot of different sectors were simultaneously affected. And also the outcome was delayed, right? Like we didn't start to see a delay in like car manufacturing, for example, for a few months, right? And we're still seeing effects of that supply chain breakdown to this day in 2024. And so instantly taking multiple things offline, like oil, like fertilizer, like agriculture, I mean, that's GG.
Okay, so now that we've set the stage, let's look at what science says about the actual wars that could happen.
Okay.
Actual nuclear war.
Okay.
Today, there are two main conflicts that scientists think about when making calculations of nuclear winter: a nuclear war between India and Pakistan, and one between the US and Russia.
Yeah, that US and Russia thing, we've been thinking about that since like the 70s or earlier. Yeah. Whoo, let's not have that. Let's not have that. I think we're far enough away on the earth that we should just be able to like live our own lives, you know?
The most likely smallish nuclear exchange would be fought today between India and Pakistan.
He said most likely. So he thinks it is more likely that India and Pakistan exchange nukes than the US and Russia. That's interesting.
With relatively low yield weapons. Even in a pretty mild nuclear war like this, the immediate explosions would kill around 27 million people, which is horrible enough, in just a few hours.
So a small nuclear exchange, a cute little nuclear exchange would kill more people in a few hours than all of World War I?
More people would die than in all of World War I. The ensuing fires would not cause a nuclear winter, but a mild nuclear autumn.
I mean, I like autumn, right? Like I think it, the leaves change. It's kind of pretty, it's you can wear a jacket and a hoodie, but you don't have to like really bundle up, you can go for nice walks, the crisp air, you've got Halloween, I wouldn't mind 10 years of autumn, you know what I'm saying? I just, probably could do without the 27 million people dying. I don't know.
Even this would disrupt the climate and thereby global agriculture, enough to starve up to 250 million people worldwide.
Damn, bro. What the fuck, dude? Did India and Pakistan see this video? Bro, do you think they have this data? If they have this data, they better not drop a fucking nuke.
Unfortunately, India and Pakistan are in an arms race and have been increasing the number and power of warheads in their arsenal.
Yo, shout out to humanity. Am I right? Shout out to humans for doing the opposite of what we should do. Sick, dude.
The next stage of escalation would be war with hundreds of nuclear weapons. The bombs and fires destroying many major population centers and killing over 100 million people. A war on this scale would cause a nuclear winter that would damage global agriculture enough to cut the available calories for humanity in half. The number of people that starve to death would be as high as 2 billion.
So literally a quarter of all the people out there. So what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? So okay. I mean, surely that won't happen, right? Surely they're not going to do that.
1 in 4 humans alive today.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario is a full-scale global war between NATO nations and Russia, or China, which also continues to build its nuclear arsenal. In a war between a former, future, and current superpower, thousands of nuclear weapons could be detonated.
I mean, that's it, right? Like it's over. Like there's no way. There's no way that humanity survives a full all-out nuclear war between superpowers. There's just no way, right? That's the whole mutually assured destruction thing.
In a scenario with around 4,400 nuclear weapons, 360 million people would perish right away. We have no other event to even compare the death and destruction to. It's like humanity dropping an asteroid on itself. The nuclear winter that follows such an apocalyptic war would tank human calorie production by as much as 90%. Not only would almost all of our agriculture take an immediate and deadly hit, the climate would take at least a decade to recover.
He said the climate would take a decade to recover. I feel like it would take longer than that. I assumed it would take longer, but holy shit. So 90% of calories globally are wiped out. So 90% of people at least are wiped out, if not more, including what the blasts actually kill. And based on what we saw from the chart earlier, that means that the only places that could probably continue to manufacture or produce food given the world cooling basically, or at least the countries that have nukes dropped on them cooling, would be South America and Africa. It would basically be like a server reset. Basically we would just wipe out 90% of people and just say start over. You guys fucked around and found out, start over. Like that's what would happen. Holy shit.
Because a war like this would specifically hit the world regions that produce most of the food for humanity, recovery will be much, much harder than with other conflicts. Within 2 years, the global death toll from starvation could rise to about 5 billion. In mid-latitude countries like Russia, China, Canada, the US, and much of Europe, only a few % of the population might survive. Humanity will never be the same again.
It's actually like crazy to even wrap my mind around that. Like he said only a few % of people would remain alive or survive from the countries that are involved in the exchange, and a few % is less than 10%, right? So let's say 5% of people, being generous, actually survive in America. Okay, so that's 1 in 20 people. 1 in 20 people would survive. So think of 19 other people that you know, you all 20 of you stand in a room, only 1 of you would be left after this, if you're lucky. And if we're being honest, are you actually lucky to survive this? Like it sounds worse than Fallout, like the game that you've played. Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, it sounds worse than that, which is no thank you, brother, no thank you. And also, what about the radiation? We didn't even get to the radiation part. Like the people that are left are probably gonna get cancer and die, right? And like, can you even reproduce if you have that much radiation? Like, can babies be born healthy with that much radiation? I have no idea. Maybe they'll answer that in the video.
While nowhere is truly safe, some nations in the southern hemisphere may fare well enough to endure while the rest of the world collapses.
Oh, yo, I didn't even think about Australia. Yo, we should go to
All
Australia.
the nuclear weapon states are in the northern hemisphere, so a few countries like Australia, New Zealand, and Argentina may be able to endure for a bunch of different reasons.
Okay.
Their nuclear winter would be milder, they have a lot of livestock that would not be as affected as crops, so they would probably stop exporting food and focus on keeping their own people alive.
That's the thing about Australia. They've got a lot of kangaroos, and I actually ate kangaroo the other day. This was like maybe a month ago. I had kangaroo for the first time, and it was fine. It was just generic meat. It tasted like just like regular meat, you know? And if I had to choose that over starving to death, like, yeah, I'm eating kangaroo every day, right? I will eat it every single day, even though I think personally beef tastes better, chicken tastes better, pork tastes better, all that's better. I think fish even, I would say, tastes better. But I mean, it's edible and it's fine, and you could basically pretend that it's regular beef and you'd probably be good. You'd be living fine. So I think Australia might be the play. Like Australia low-key might be like the safest place to live right now. I don't know.
Assuming they aren't invaded for their food by other starving nations.
But who would be left to invade them, right? Like we immediately think, oh, United States would invade them, but like, would there even be a United States military? Probably not, right?
Safe to say that the world would become extremely unpleasant for a long time, and it's impossible to know how many people would have died when the nuclear winter ends. In the worst case, human civilization could collapse and the survival.
I mean, Best Buy is kind of already collapsing, right? Like, I think this is like modern day, right? That's already happening.
Would be thrown back thousands of years,
Yeah.
slowly trying to recover a world full of scars and graves. Eventually, when they've rebuilt civilization, would they ever build nuclear weapons again?
Yes, we would, because if there's one thing you can count on, it's for humans to do the dumb thing. We'll always do the dumb thing because we're stupid and we have egos, and that's just what's going to happen. And at some point, people will reconquer land, and they will eventually want to protect that land, and they'll go to any length to do so. And maybe it'll be because of a dictator, or maybe it'll be because of whatever, colonization or whatever. But at some point, yes, we will build nukes. And also, we probably won't have the recorded data from the date that the world quote unquote ended, right? So all the people, by the time the world rebuilds, they're not even gonna remember what happened. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, some bullshit happened, everyone fucking died, we don't have any books or the internet left, so we don't know what happened, and they just go and build nukes again. Maybe that's black pill, I don't know. I think that's what's gonna happen.
We know for sure that we need to do anything we can to make sure nuclear war never happens. This video was supported by Open Philanthropy. If you want to know what you can do to reduce the risk of nuclear war, you can either support expert organizations or become a citizen expert yourself and
That's what we're doing. We're learning together, you guys. Oh my God.
learn more. We've compiled a list of further reading and expert recommendations in the info box and our sources doc for you. Thank you so much for helping us clear out the Kurzgesagt warehouse for our big move. But
All right.
watch out. Sometimes creepy things are hiding behind those boxes.
Uh-oh.
Wild dread appears. What will you do?
Uh-oh.
Quick.
Existential dread. I've seen that dude. Yo, sometimes when I see this dude, I just lay on the floor. I got a little rug down here. I just lay on the floor, and then eventually this dude goes away. It takes maybe like an hour or two. But yeah, this is an ad, it looks like, for something.
From one of those boxes to defend yourself. You used Awe. It's very effective against
Awe?
dread. Look, you've unlocked some amazing deals.
No way.
Save up to 50% on awe-inspiring products in our biggest sale ever. Some of our finest creations are eager to find a new home.
Wait a minute. He just said that you can defeat existential dread by buying stuff from their store. I don't know, Chief. I mean, these are pretty. These are like notebooks and posters and stuff. I think they're kind of cute. But also, like, I'm not sure, man. I don't know about that whole retail therapy thing. I don't know.
The duck plushie.
Okay, I get the duck plushie. The duck plushie would be good. I can understand how that might actually. These are actually very beautiful notebooks, to be honest with you guys. These do look really nice. I would like these if I was a kid.
Design notebook series and a few of our very best infographic posters.
Dinosaurs are sick. One of the worst parts about growing up is that other adults don't ask you what your third favorite dinosaur is anymore, and it's kind of disappointing.
The Burbs will be moving the last boxes to the new warehouse soon, so grab a notebook, plushie, pin or poster before the moving sale ends, or before Dread gets a hold of them. The birds really appreciate it.
That was a good video, man. That was a good video. This is number 4 on trending right now. People are concerned about this. People really think we're gonna have a nuclear war, guys. Let's see what the comments say. Hang on. It says, if you have more people and calories available, then in a few weeks you don't anymore. So simple, so brutal. Yep, true. Their nuclear winter will be milder. This is pretty much the most positive sentence in the video. Yeah, that's actually true. The upside of living in London, chances of surviving more than 1 second after that first bright light in the sky is close to 0 rather than starving to death. That's what I said before. Like, living in New York, like, do I want to be the 5% that survives? Probably not, right? If you just instant die, I mean, that's probably better. Whenever I'm feeling down or depressed, I just watch a post-apocalypse scenario simulation and it picks me right up. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. I'm feeling a little bit sad about this. As someone that lives in Australia, I see this as an absolute win. Please don't eat me. That's what I'm saying, man. Australia, the new first world power. How humanity will and not how humanity would is terrifying. Yep. Going out in atomic fire sounds like a much kinder fate than having to live post-mushroom cloud Argentina, or even last decade Argentina for that matter. You should be thankful for what you have. True, man. True. I think, here's what I think. I don't think we're gonna have a nuclear war. I don't think we are. I think that, and maybe I'm being a little bit too optimistic here, okay, because humanity has proven to be a little bit stupid in the past, but I think that at this point, surely those steering the ship understand the severity of nuclear war. Surely they must know that. We've known this for, I don't know, 75 years, if not longer. Okay, the first nuke test was codenamed Trinity and took place in New Mexico in July of 1945, so 78 years ago or whatever. I don't even know if I did the math there, but what you get the drill. I think that we're not going to have a nuclear war. I think the media likes to perpetuate that narrative. They like to bang on that drum. That way you keep coming back and turning on the television and going to the news media apps and doom scrolling through Twitter and watching Hassan on Twitch all day. Like, oh my God, you're just constantly watching the most negative, scary stuff. And it's all real, right? It's all happening. But I think that the probability in my mind, I'd like to think, okay, this could be copium, but I'd like to think that humanity wouldn't actually press the red button. That's what I would like to think. I think at the end of the day, whether you're talking about a dictator, whether you're talking about the United States, whatever, at the back of our stupid brains is a spinal cord. And in our most primitive neurology, we know that we can't press the button. That's what I think. I hope that's the truth. I hope that's the case. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe I'm optimistic. Who knows? But I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section below. This was a really good video. I'm going to link to it down in the description as well. Drop a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel a ton.